my name is Gloria, and we are going to look at how 5 items in my house were manufactured. Not these items, no. These are unrelated.
First up, we got these drawer handles from my mom's dresser. And if you look closely, you've got what suspiciously looks like where the parting line would be if this was casted. So, yep, upon further research, furniture handles are often casted.
Furniture handles are typically made using a die casting process. The video I consulted used a hot chamber die casting machine. So the metal that was going to be used as the handle was heated until it turned into liquid and then injected at a high pressure into a mold called a die, and then the hot metal took the shape of the die and then solidified as it cooled, and that created the handle. There's a cover die which stays fixed in place, and an ejector die which would move, allowing the part, well, closing the two halves of the die together, allowing the part to be made, or pulling apart from the die, allowing the part to be ejected once it's solidified. What differentiates die casting from other casting is that the die is permanent, not expendable. It's usually made of steel and can be used thousands of times before it needs to be replaced. And it is injected at, well, the metal is injected at a very high pressure and high velocity. So yeah.
Up next is this chin-up bar. It attaches to the door frame, and then, you do pull-ups on it, except don't do that because I did that and then it slipped off the door frame, and then I fell on my back, and then it fell on me, and then I made this dent in the wall. Anyway, if you zoom in here to perpendicularly attach the bars of the chin-up bar together, it looks like this hollow tube was welded to this bracket here, and you could see there's a fillet weld on either side here.
A common method to join metal components is by arc welding. So let's say you have your workpiece that you want to weld, and you have an electrode. An arc is going to be the discharge of electricity between these two electrodes in an electric circuit. And this arc is going to provide heat to melt metal, which will create the fillet that we saw. The electrode can be consumable or non-consumable in this process. If it's consumable, then this electrode is the electrode that melts to create the fillet weld. If it's non-consumable, then you need to have another metal close to it which would melt and create the fillet weld. And the greater the distance between the electrodes, the greater the voltage required from the power supply to create the weld. So here we have a video of a guy who's arc welding here, and as you can see, he's using a non-consumable electrode, so he needs an extra metal piece which is being melted by the heat of the arc to create the weld that you're seeing here.
Here's an axe. It's made of one piece of steel, which was forged to create this signature shape.
Axes are often made using impression die hammer forging. So you start off with a cylindrical stock, usually made of steel. You heat the stock in a furnace until it becomes pliable or easily bent, and then you stretch it or draw it out. Then you hammer or press this pliable, drawn out metal into a die. This die is in the shape of the axe head. Then, since the stock is hot and pliable, it takes the shape of the die, and a flash is formed. Now, the flash is when excess metal is squeezed out of the parting line of the die. So that flash has to be cut off, and then the axe is left to cool, and you're left with a solid axe blade. So here's the drawn out stock. It's then hammered into the die. There's one half of the die is on the bottom here, and one half of the die is on the top with the hammer. So it takes its shape, and then the flash is trimmed off using a cutting machine like this, and then it's left to cool.
For my plastic component, I chose my childhood, a Lego brick. Except I never really outgrew that because I would like to show off my model EDML lab. Here I'm making the MIAE 312 hammer on the lathe, and here's the axe we just forged. And it's COVID, so we have to disinfect things.
Lego bricks are made using injection molding. You start off with these little plastic pieces called granules. These are dyed to create all sorts of pretty colors. Then the plastic is heated to a toothpaste-like consistency, and then that is injected at a very high pressure into the Lego mold or die. It's left to cool. It cools quickly. Then the brick is ejected from the die, and you have your solid Lego piece. So here you got your plastic granules. These are then heated in the molding machine, and they're injected at a very high pressure here, and then they cool quickly and are released from the molds. Here are my references, and thanks for listening.